Welcome back to the Elevate Your Life podcast. Today, we are breaking down what it means to be a cycle breaker. And I hope you're ready for this because we are not sugarcoating it. We're not staying on the surface. We are going deep dive into what it means to be a cycle breaker, the different phases of it, where most of us fall apart and we fall right back to the patterns that we know and are familiar to us because that's how we're programmed. That's the programming, that's the condition. And it's probably the most difficult, challenging, uprooting, excruciating work you will do, but it is equally the most rewarding. And as someone who is a cycle breaker, who's been breaking patterns, who's become aware and awakened and gone through many different versions of breaking cycles, of creating a new way forward, I think it's so fitting to talk about what that even means. How do you even do that? And to create a space where we talk about it, because so many of us want to be cycle breakers. So many of us are living in the anxiety and in the fear and in the control and in the space of repeating the same shit, okay, over and over again. And we don't understand why. And it's not like you're a bad person, okay? It's not like you're not trying your best. And you, at the end of the day, just want to be loved, want to be seen, want to be heard, want to be respected, want to be understood. Like, why is that so hard? But yet we find ourselves as the underdog, or we find ourselves not using our voice. We find ourselves thinking we're not enough. So we overcompensate and try to do more and please more to get that approval that never comes, or comes at the cost of you abandoning yourself, comes at the cost of your peace, at the cost of your sanity. You're always at the begging call. You're always bending over backwards. I mean, am I like preaching to the choir here? Because I know I'm not the only one. And at the end of the day, not only is it never enough, but you're never happy. You yourself are miserable. You yourself are questioning why. And I want to use this time with you to reframe that. Instead of why, I want you to be asking yourself, how can I shift this conversation? How can I shift this narrative? Where am I co-creating this pattern in my life? Because we need to start with taking ownership. We need to start with taking accountability, what our role is in the dynamic that is playing out. If we simply project and blame that the other people in our life are the reason for our misery or the reason for our patterns or the reason for our traumas, yes, they have a role in how they're showing up, and it's probably detrimental. It's probably really toxic, and they don't even know it, because if they knew, they would probably do different. Okay. But now that you are tuning in, you're listening to this conversation, you want to be better. And this is how we do it. We start with taking accountability. Where in my life am I showing up that I'm a co-creator in this dynamic? Where am I feeding into this abuse? Where am I allowing myself to tolerate this type of behavior? Once we start there, then we can really peel back the layers. I call this the facing it and the feeling it. We have to feel it. And in order to feel it, you have to first acknowledge your part. And if you don't start there, you're going to end up thinking that it's always the other person that needs to change first. And that does not claim your power back, okay? Being a cycle breaker means you 100% take ownership. You 100% own the weight, the pain, and you feel it all. It's not someone else's responsibility to do that for you. They can only do that for themselves in their own timing. When you really start to become aware of the conversations you're having, the engagements you're committing to, or you're over committing to, or the things you're saying yes, but you really want to say no, like start to become aware of all these little things happening on a day-to-day basis that you're co-creating that you would really prefer to say no to. Where are you abandoning yourself on a day-to-day basis? Who are you allowing to speak to you or belittle you or guilt you or shame you or put you down? This is where it starts, where you can start to identify and notice this happen again. And that is the simple little shift where you start to face it, where you start to recognize it and you begin to feel it. Most of us want to be cycle breakers, but the second you get to that awareness and you feel it and you try to give that little bit of pushback or, to the other person, it feels resistance coming to them because now you're not operating from that mindset of allowing them to stomp over you and trample over you, walk over you, manipulate you, think that they have power over you. You start to stand firm and put that foot down and claim ownership over, no, actually, I prefer not to. Or, moving forward, I'd like for you to, these are our boundaries or these are the agreements. And they don't like that. Most of us fall back. We go into people pleasing because then they retrieve and you don't like that feeling of abandonment and rejection because they're giving you the cold shoulder and we can't stand that. Okay. And this is where most women fall short. This is where you want to be that cycle breaker. You want to create a new way forward. But the second you feel that resistance coming up or that rejection, you immediately go back into the old ways. And that is what we are here to talk about. Now, there's moments where I've fallen back. There's moments where you're going to fall back, but that doesn't mean you failed. That doesn't mean that you can't get back up and try again. That doesn't mean your life is falling apart. That means you're human. That means you have real and raw emotion, real trauma that is stored in your nervous system, and reprogramming yourself takes time and repetition, because with repetition, you start to create that neuroplasticity in your brain and creating those new neural pathways that tell yourself, oh, for the last 30 years of how I've been operating, I'm now all of a sudden, the snap of my fingers, going to change that. That takes time for it to create, for that to be the new standard. Okay. So for you to create that new standard, you can't keep falling back every single time. You have to follow through and not fall back. And the more times you follow through, the easier following through will become. Okay. That doesn't mean the no gets any easier. That just means you're going to get used to relying on yourself versus the dependency that we've created on others to feel that approval from. The most important approval is the one you give yourself, is the one God gives you, the one that you feel that peace in your heart. That's the approval we're looking for. No longer the validation from somebody else to make us feel okay, because then we're always going to be at the mercy of their emotional day, of how they're feeling, of how they're reacting to us. We're no longer subscribing to that. Okay. We are only subscribing to the peace that God gives us, from the authority that He gives us, from the approval that comes from our Creator. Okay. It must come from within. Otherwise, you will always be, I'll say it again, at the mercy of those outside of you, even your own spouse, even your own children. They cannot be at the center of that peace. They can bring peace. Okay. But you can't always expect them to give it to you without you knowing how to generate it yourself. Okay. The most important piece of this entire conversation, this entire episode, if you take nothing from it, take that alone. When you reclaim that power and you take accountability and you claim ownership, you are unsubscribing from the people outside of you to give you anything that you think you need that you can't give yourself. Okay. And oftentimes when we are abandoning ourselves, it's because we forget that we can give us the love that we are seeking outside of ourselves. And we succumb thinking that, oh, if somebody else is not okay, I need to go and fix that. We are not in the job of fixing people. It is not your responsibility. It is not your job. Your job is to make sure that you remain in your rightful place. Okay, queen, you are a queen. You are a maiden. You may be a matriarch. You may be a mother. You must remain in your rightful place. And when you're not in your rightful place, that magnetism, that part of you that's very attracting and polarizing in a good way, gets lost. and it doesn't become that thing that gravitates, that radiates, that pulls people toward you. It actually draws you out of yourself. So let's keep that in mind, okay? When you face it and you begin to feel it and you start to stand in the midst of that darkness, because that's what you're doing. You are choosing to opt out of what is no longer healthy, what is other people's trauma responses, their attachment styles. You are choosing for yourself, okay, that you are no longer subscribing to any of that for you. And then when you go show up in the world, that ripple effect is felt and it makes others feel it for themselves too, because we are all mirrors. And when somebody sees their own mirror, it's like looking at yourself in the middle of the night. Nobody wants to see that, okay? Unless you put some makeup on in the morning, nobody wakes up like that looking all fabulous. No, you don't look fabulous when the mirror is shown to your face and you see everything, all the imperfections, all the traumas, all of the ways that you have shown up that you're not proud of. People don't want to face that. They would much rather trample over and continue living the life that they are because that works for them. It's comfortable. Okay. The second somebody has to feel it, you're going to see a side of them that you have never seen before. Okay. And I've seen this in families so many times, even in my own family, where the second I chose that I'm no longer a participant in something that I don't believe in, that is out of my own integrity, I'm no longer facilitating this behavior in my family tree. All of the different ways that we choose at some point in our timeline that no longer align with us starts to put people on notice that, oh, the way I've been doing things with her for this entire time is no longer going to work. They don't know how to show up. And so they're most likely going to outcast you, ridicule you, criticize you, judge you, deem you as the bad influence. Why? Because they would rather pin you, blame you as the cause for the disruption versus recognizing where they themselves are co-creating part of that disruption and destruction themselves. And this is exactly where most of us fall apart, okay? Not just feeling it and facing it, but choosing to stand forward. It's really hard to face that kind of rejection, to face that kind of isolation, to be deemed crazy, to be gaslit, and all of the things that occur when you're literally standing for truth, when you're standing for authenticity, when you're standing for what you know is right, and you're being called crazy, right? There's a cost when it comes to choosing the path of authenticity. And that cost means you have to walk through the fire. That cost means you are going to die to yourself for all the ways in which you know it will break you down because it has to. And if it doesn't, then you're not going to rebuild back stronger. That phoenix will not have risen because you have not chosen to walk through the fire and let the fire consume you to the point where nothing can come at you that can't phase you. It's like the battle. You're literally going to war. So what kind of armor are you going to put on? You need the armor of God. You need the armor of your angels. You need the armor of a good, supportive community. What kind of friends do you have around you? Who do you have in your ear as a mentor? What conversations are you tuning into? What content are you absorbing? All of that matters because that is going to be the armor that helps get you through the battle. And you need to get through the battle to get to the other side successfully so that you can then integrate new patterns into your life where you're no longer subscribing to the old and you have 100% committed at a foundational level in walking an entirely new path. Okay. And if the people from the past in your family or your community or relationships, whatever that might look like, decide I think I want to be part of her life, or you decide, let's see what this could look like, and you extend an olive branch, you have given yourself the proper amount of time to set the new foundation within yourself so that when you return or when you extend the olive branch, you're not going back to the old roots because those roots, you've pulled them out. They don't exist anymore in you. Those people that used to trigger you, okay, and throw bullets and walk you through the fire, you don't feel that fire anymore. You've already gone through it. It doesn't phase you like it did before. You know how to handle, how to act accordingly. You've done the work. And this is the part where most people just don't get it, where you feel it, you understand it, you see it, you acknowledge it, but we don't know how to fully integrate in our lives, okay? And this is something that's been really stirring in me for some time, and where I just started pouring out and just writing. I love to write. And just started writing. And God just put on my heart, like, wow, there's not a blueprint or a framework or a step-by-step process to show you how to be a cycle breaker, how to feel it, process it, accept it, and then integrate it into your life, into your nervous system, into your being. How do you calm yourself? How do you reparent yourself? How do you reprogram yourself? Because that's what being a cycle breaker means. No one taught you how to do this. No one's teaching others how to be a cycle breaker and how to do it successfully, lovingly, without trampling over others and burning bridges. That's not what this is about. This is about choosing to stand for love, in love, to live in love, and to not live in fear, rooted in unresolved problems that we just shove under the rug, like many families do for many generations in time, living in survival, living under control, living under the patriarch or the matriarch of the family who sets the tone for everybody else. And nobody can say a damn thing because, God forbid, okay? This is what this is about. Living in love, being real, and not faking the funk just to please others. We are unsubscribing from that, okay? And so the cycle breaking method was born. The cycle breaking method was born. And I decided to create it as a group coaching experience. It's 8 steps over the course of 8 weeks. And it is going to be limited to a select small group of women to start, ensuring that there's proper attention from me being given to everyone. And it's going to walk you through the exact steps that I took over the past 10 years, okay, 10 years of breaking cycles and integrating an entirely new programming into my life, that I'm able to have relationships with those that outcasted me, that literally isolated me, that I did not speak to for 5 years, 9 years, that I would have never thought in a million years I'd want my kids to meet and have a relationship with and allow them through my front door into the walls of my home, into my sanctuary. But my heart has expanded. Its capacity to hold and harness and hold compassion and empathy has grown tenfold. And I want to share that, and I want to mentor and guide you to that greatest version of you that's living in you, that's waiting to come out, that's waiting to stop playing small and to be seen and to be respected, and to know that you have your place in the world. And it's not going to stop because someone in your family or in your community or a coworker or a boss or a husband or a boyfriend or whoever in your life told you otherwise. You get to decide the version of you that you want to be, and only you get to decide when it's time for you to lay that down. When the anxiety in you is not going to run your life, when the control that you feel because you just don't know how to not controlled, it no longer lives in you, runs your life, shows up in your life because you changed your belief system at a fundamental level. So for those that feel called and you just have a full body yes right now, like, wow, this girl gets me. I've been you and we are in this together. And that's what this show is here for, to be that support, that community that you can tune into and receive a message, tools, exercises, practical advice from somebody who's walked in your shoes before and has created a version of her life that I'm really proud of. And I want you to be proud of your life too. So if you feel called, go ahead and send me a DM on social media, Elevate with Eleana. And I can't wait to meet you and guide you to your greatest version yet. I hope this episode spoke to you and gave you some loving guidance and support, knowing that you're not alone, knowing that breaking cycles is a lot. It's the greatest, heaviest work you will ever do, but it's so worth it. And it's worth it for our littles. If you're raising littles like me, to witness them in their fullness and their raw emotion, and to notice when you yourself get triggered and things that come up and are stirring in your heart, and you're reminding yourself of, wow, how far you've come or how far you still have to go. And either one is beautiful because that's part of the journey. And there's so many times where I've noticed that in my marriage and in my motherhood, the relationships that you have commitment with are the ones that are going to be your greatest mirrors. That's why people in your family trigger you the most, because those are committed relationships, like they're biological. Okay. You can't go get a new family biologically. That's just the ones you have are the one, that's it. Those relationships that are commitments in this life are going to mirror back to you your deepest wounds, your deepest triggers. So this work isn't just for you alone. This is the ripple effect. Okay. When you change the entire course of your lineage, of your generations to come that come from you and your offspring. You change the people closest to you, because when you change, your entire outer world changes. The people around you respond to you differently because you are different. They can't respond to you the same way anymore. It's not going to land. It's not going to resonate. Some people will actually fall out of your life because it simply no longer resonates for them or you, and you will attract better, more aligned. You will attract people in your life that are going in the same direction as you, that you can be inspired by and can look up to, because that's the whole point, right? As humans, we're here to grow. And if we're not growing, we're dying. And if we're dying, then we just feel empty and miserable and depressed and living the same day over and over and over again. So let this be your inspiration today to know that this is your call to grow. This is your call forward to your next level. This is your call forward for your children, for your family, for your future children, for your future grandchildren, for them to know that, wow, I had somebody in my family that was willing to take the punches, that was willing to face herself, willing to take a stand, willing to be the oak tree without roots that are rotting, but really taking care of her own roots. Okay. So they're not, like I said, rotting from the inside out. Most of us are rotting around, and you can see it, you can feel it, but nobody does anything about it except you. You're going to do something about it. You're not going to let your roots rot, and you're not going to let your kids watch you rot away. You are going to grow. You're going to water yourself. You're going to give yourself the support, the love, the nurturing, the sunshine that you need. And it starts by meeting you here next time. This is the real stuff. This is the stuff that moves the needle. This is the stuff that even if you never talk about with your kids, they're going to know that you did something different, and they're going to feel it. So I leave you with that today. Have an amazing day, and I can't wait to talk to you next time.